Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Suzanne, Community Librarian from the Clairview branch of the Edmonton Public Library. I'm happy to be leading this event on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of Métis Nation. EPL's Capital City in Conversation is excited to present Once Upon a Time, Legends, Myths, and Fairy Tales written by English language learners from Amity House. Before we start, I would like to remind everyone this event is being recorded. Please keep your mics muted until the end. We will invite you to share your reactions, comments, and questions after the reading. I now invite Louisa, English teacher who coordinated this book, to host our event.
Hello, everybody. Wave.
Morning.
Hi. Oh, you know, it is so lovely to see your faces.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm brought to tears. Which doesn't take much, as you know.
They don't need to. They don't need to hear me.
So I'm just really, really excited to see you all, and what a wonderful occasion for our book. Yes, and you did it, and you could be proud. I'm proud. So that's a wonderful, wonderful accomplishment for all of you. And I want to welcome all of you. I know that we have people here from both our classes, and I don't think we can see everybody, so it would not make much sense to ask you. But let's ask the people that are here from the Londonderry Library to wave. And now have the people from the Clairview Library wave. And then we want to have all the volunteers wave. And then I would really like to see if, I don't know if you can see the pictures, but I know there's a family here from Mexico, right, Maria? All the way. And I know my sister from Ontario is here. So hi, Nellie. I can't see your picture, but I'm just so thrilled that you took the time to come. And there are other guests here too that I don't know about, but I see the names and I think, oh, I wonder who that is. So we have about 40 people here. And isn't that something? I'm just delighted with that. So stories. Stories are so important in our life. Sometimes they're stories your mom has told you, your dad, or maybe your grandpa, or my husband is a great storyteller, and I hear the stories over and over again, and I don't mind at all, because they get better with age, like a good wine, a good story. And so in our class, this spring, we did a unit on stories. And we started with reading a few very simple fairy tales. And we did Hansel and Gretel as a typical fairy tale. And we learned that in fairy tales, good is always rewarded, bad is always punished. Too bad it's not like that in our real world. And good is beautiful, the beautiful princess. Bad is always ugly like a troll. So then we started with this. And then we did a book story that makes fun of these type of fairy tales. And it's where the princess rescues a prince. And the princess doesn't look very beautiful. She's got all ash on her face from a dragon blowing smoke at her. And she rescues the prince, who is very handsome and beautiful, but he is a bum, as we read in the class. So it was making fun of the traditional fairy tale. And then we read a story from an indigenous story, a legend from the West Coast. And there we heard of a type of princess too, but she goes into the sea and she becomes one of the sea creatures. And we saw stories that deal with earth and trees and rivers and mountains and how we have legends surrounding all of those. And then it was your turn to write a story. And you did it with amazing grace. It was so difficult because we couldn't sit beside you with our iPads and our computers and our keyboards. We had to do it by phone even sometimes. Sometimes you took a photograph of your writing and your dear volunteers typed it all out for you and went over it with you. It was really difficult, but you did it. And it was a wonderful process. The volunteers were absolutely crucial, essential to making this work. And I would like to all clap. I know your sound isn't there, but we had 20 volunteers who spent hours and hours, sometimes outside of the regular class, helping the students do their writing. And they were just so wonderful. And I want to thank all of them for their dedication and their great time involvement. Two of our volunteers are no longer with us. And that was very sad. Pat Barnum was one of our volunteers, and she died in March from cancer. And I saw that her husband, David, is here. David, we're so thankful to see you. And we still want to express our sympathy to you. And thank you, David, for coming today and for the wonderful contribution that Pat has made to our classes. And the other person who has left us is Bertha Groot. And Bertha was also a Clairview volunteer, and she had just turned 90 and was still at our volunteer appreciation lunch in July. And she died very suddenly and unexpectedly. And her husband's name is Bill, and I don't know if Bill is here, but Luce Maria is Bertha's daughter-in-law, and she has been a very long time supporter of our Clairview, our Londonderry class. And her husband, Wayne, has the potato farm where we've gone to many, many years. So Bertha is Wayne's mother, and she also passed away. So we want to express our sympathy to these wonderful people, these two women who have been so helpful to the success of our program. A couple of other thank yous. Edmonton Public Library. You see under, if you can see Edmonton Public Library's little picture here on the gallery. Oh, there she is. There's Sue. And Sue, I want to thank you too for your incredible support for our program. The library has been a wonderful partnership. And you've had tours of the library. They've brought in resources. They have great screen for us to project on. And the library staff would peek through our window and say, "What you doing today? What you doing today?" And they would show so much interest and support and try to come in regularly to see the students, welcome them. So thank you, EPL, also for hosting this lovely Zoom book launch. ECALA is that the ECALA stands for Edmonton Community Adult Learning Association, and they have been the sponsor of our ESL program for about 11 years. And they have done all the printing of the book. And they have a staff member named Trudy Huguet. And I don't see Trudy's picture here, but I'm sure she's here. Trudy did all the layout of the book and found all the photos to go with your. Pardon?
Hi.
Trudy, I can't see you, but thank you so much. You've been so good to work with, and she's been very patient with me when I've wanted to change a picture or add something. And Trudy, thank you so much for your involvement. I also want to thank the councillor who is since Monday, no longer a councillor, but he was also supportive of our program, Councillor Dziadyk, and he gave us money for this book. And I want to thank Tracy. She's the masked bandit there. And you'll see Tracy, she's got her mask on at Amity. Tracy is the executive director of Amity House and has made all the applications for funding and ensured that the program would run smoothly. Thank you, Tracy, for your support. It's been absolutely necessary. So those are the people who've made this possible. It's also with a great deal of sadness that we have this book launch, because this is the last meeting, the last class. As the students know, as of June 30, our program is gone. So it's a sad time, because I know what a wonderful program it's been for you. Many of you have shed tears and have shared with me how you miss the classes. And when will they start again? And how much that is meant to you. So we know that it's over, and that's very sad. It's heartbreaking for many of us. And we don't know if there's a way to ever start the program again. But today, we raise a glass and celebrate that we're doing this wonderful project and getting it off the ground. The agenda for today, I'm just going to show it to you for the next while so you know what it's going to look like. This is what's going to be the program for today. First, Anne Berkenbosch has been a volunteer for, I think, at least 11 years for the program. And she's going to say a few words on behalf of all the volunteers. After that, Teresa Yu, who has been a student for 10 years. Sometimes she had to miss because she was doing childcare, but she always came back when she could. She will speak on behalf of the students, and thank you to those students who gave her some input. And then we'll hear 5 stories. One from China, and that one will be by Fen. But Fen won't be reading. She couldn't read today, but her volunteer's name is Pearl. And Pearl worked with Fen on her story. So Pearl will read Fen's story. Then a story from Belarus, and that is by Dana. And then a story from Syria that is not really a fairy tale or story, but an account of a couple of one of the students' friends. And she is not able to read. So her volunteer, whose name is Kayla, will read her story today. Then we have a story from Mexico, which Maria will read, and one from Hong Kong, which Judy will read. I will give you the page numbers of those stories so that when they are reading it, if you like to have it in front of you from your book, you can. And then at the end, Tracy, Executive Director of Amity House, would still like to say a few words. So we're going to start with asking Anne Berkenbosch to speak.
Okay. Shall I start, Louisa?
Please do.
When Louisa first asked me to volunteer in the ESL class that she had just started teaching, I said no. I had worked for many years as an educational assistant and had just retired. I was doing quite a lot of work still in the school and did not want to be involved in a project. As you might know, Louisa can be quite persistent, and she asked me again about a year later. I could not think of a good excuse this time, so I said I would give it a try. That was about 10 years ago. My experience started at Amity House, where there were roughly 8 students at first. It was a very small room and did not give the volunteers places to work with the students, but we managed. In coming years, the program moved to various library rooms where we had more space to work in small groups. Mind you, the number of students grew significantly as well. Of course, the last year was a totally different story. Because of COVID, we learned to navigate Zoom. This presented a steep learning curve for the volunteers as well as the students. Thankfully, Louisa patiently walked many of us through this, and most of us were able to continue volunteering. Who knew that we would learn about screen sharing, chats, whiteboards, etc.? I think I speak for all of the volunteers when I say that we received as much as we gave to the program. Because of the diversity of the students, we learned about many different cultures and traditions. In the 2 previous books that the students wrote, we especially learned a lot about the customs and backgrounds of the students, and we were enriched by that. It was always a highlight when someone had a birthday, and happy birthday would be sung in many different languages. Sometimes we would have good laughs with each other when we tried to explain certain words and would be totally misunderstood, but in the end, we usually did figure out what was meant, and so new words and ideas were learned. It was a joy to see the students progress in their knowledge of English and Canadian ways. And as volunteers, we also learned from the lessons that were taught. Some of the topics that Louisa introduced were new to us as well. We learned about Viola Desmond, Chinese New Year, beavers, etc. Luz Maria, a volunteer, and her husband Wayne enjoyed showing the students and volunteers their potato growing operation. It was fun to see everyone go into the field to fill their bag with potatoes. Similarly, my husband John and I enjoyed sharing our backyard with the Londonderry students for the year-end party. A good time was had by all, and the food the students brought was terrific. Too bad COVID put an end to that. As volunteers, we also created a bond with each other. We shared birthday lunches, and we all appreciated our times at Louisa's, enjoying her yard and her delicious cooking. Sadly, 2 of the volunteers passed away this year. So Louisa, I was hesitant at first to volunteer, but thanks for being persistent. It was a good time, and I will miss it, and especially all of you.
Thank you, Anne. I can't add anything because it was beautiful. Teresa, you're on next.
Mute. Hello, everyone. Thank you for Louisa asked me to do some speech today. I try to do my best. Okay, my name is Teresa. I come from Hong Kong, Canada, China. We are all sad because the news of our L class is discontinued. Thank you, Louisa, for staying with us for so many years. She teach us writing, reading, spelling, vocabulary, news around us every day, and how our government is working, etc. After living in Edmonton for over 30 years, I finally voted for the first time because the lessons. Every lesson is a different subject. Never get bored. We all have fun when we are in your class. And the next person I want to speak for is Valentin, a student from Romania. I want to tell to Teresa that this book and all the efforts that was made by Amity House and Louisa personal, also Bob and volunteers, are huge, and we never will forget what means to us, like a teamwork group to achieve high standard of learning under the great facilitated qualities you demonstrate along this couple of years spent together. I will live at all times with the hope that we will communicate in future, and maybe we meet sometimes after the virus is completely eradicated, and annihilated. And maybe God will help us to reinstate the license class in the near future. Who knows, maybe in a day there will be sunshine again. The next one is from Maria, a student from Mexico, wrote, I have said several times that my teacher Louisa is a magician aunt. It is because of her gift to make an English class something full of surprises. She made me wish to learn more, make it easier to learn, and I always finished my class with a huge smile of fulfillment and gratitude. Thank you, my magic teacher, Louisa. The next one from Judy, a student from Hong Kong, wrote, in the L class, I can learn not only English, but also the cultures, traditions, and history about Canada, which is very helpful for me to get involved into the communities and connect with people. I feel so thankful to be a part of the L class. It helps me to build up self-confidence and make my everyday life easier. We are so thankful for the opportunity of being part of this class. Thank you, Louisa, and all the volunteers for so many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa.
I try my best.
Oh, you did great.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful to hear all those wonderful things you had to say. So now we start the stories. And the first story is by Fen. And it is a story that basically teaches this lesson. Listen to your parents or else. And Fen is living in Calgary now, but she was able to continue in our classes because of Zoom. So that was one benefit of Zoom and COVID. Her volunteer is Pearl Poon, who you see on the screen. And Pearl was gracious enough to read Fen's story because Pearl worked with Fen on the story. So if you want to follow it, it's on page 12 of the book. And the illustrations are also done by Pearl. And so you see there's a picture of Fen. And I'm sure she's here, but we aren't able to see her. So go ahead, Pearl.
Okay, thank you, Louisa. A story, A Smart Boy by Fan Ma. A long time ago, there lived a mother and her 5-year-old son. They lived high up in the mountain. One day, the mother needed to go out, so she said to her son, please stay home and don't go out. If someone knocks on the door, don't open it. The boy listened to his mother and refused to open the door to anyone but his mom. After a little while, a wolf knocked on the door and said to the boy, I am your mom. Open the door, please. As the boy listened to the voice, he thought to himself, this isn't my mom's voice, so he didn't open the door. Later on, his mom came home. She said to her son, I'm back home. Open the door, please. The boy heard his mom's voice and looked through the side of the window. Recognizing her, he opened the door. The boy's mom was very happy to see him and said, you are a very good boy, and you are so smart. You listened to me. If you didn't, the wolf would have eaten you. The story teaches the children to listen to their parents so they don't get into trouble.
Thank you, Pearl, for reading it, and thank you, Fen, for writing it. It's just a delightful story. Our next story comes from Belarus, and it's going to be read and was written by Dana. And in fairy tales, foxes are often seen as devious creatures. And in this book, the fox gets outfoxed by a crane. And when we outfox somebody, we are able to get the craftiness of a fox. We can outfox. So Dana, let's hear your story.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you. Okay, I'll try my best. Author, A Tale from Belarus by Alexander Afanasyev.
Oh, it's page 30, by the way. If you want to follow it, it's page 30. Sorry, Dana.
Page 30, The Fox and the Crane. A Tale from Belarus by Alexander Afanasyev, 1871. Translated from the Russian by Dana from Belarus. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a fox and a crane who were close friends. One fine day, the fox invited the crane to have a dinner with her and said to him, "Come, my dear, I will treat you heartily." And so the crane came to the fox dinner party. The fox cooked semolina for dinner. Semolina is a porridge or kasha that is usually eaten for breakfast. It is very liquidy. So she put it over the plate and served it to the guest. "Help yourself to this tasty dinner, my godfather, that I have cooked for us." The crane went peck, peck with his beak. He knocked and knocked, but couldn't pick up even a little bit. The fox kept licking the cereal till there was no cereal left at all. The fox said to the crane, "Sorry, don't feel offended. There is nothing more to treat you." The fox spun around the pitcher of semolina and licked and sniffed, but couldn't extract even a single drop of the liquid. The opening was so too narrow, and her head couldn't fit into the pitcher. Meanwhile, the crane sucked the soup with his long beak. When everything had been eaten, he said to the fox, "Don't feel offended, dear. There is nothing more to treat you." The fox got very angry, as she hoped to have leftovers for the whole week. So she left empty-handed, as the crane had returned tit for tat. So this day, the fox and the crane are still not friends. That's the end of the story.
Thank you, Dana. Wonderful job, Dana, and great story. So our next story is, I know you have Maria there, so we'll switch that around. I had Hiba to be next, but we'll do Maria next. So Maria is from Mexico, and her story is about the dangers of being proud. So Maria, go ahead.
Thank you, Louisa. Hi, everyone. Well, the last fly of Vanity. The monarch butterfly is an important symbol for some of our indigenous cultures in Mexico, such as Mazahuas, Purépechas, and Otomís. It represents the soul of the children and ancestors, the beginning of the harvest season, among others. This little and delicate creature is also very strong. That's why I decided to write a story having it as the hero. A long time ago, a beautiful monarch butterfly named Vanity was born. Ever since she opened her eyes, she was surrounded by the lovely hugs of all her sisters. However, she believed she didn't need them and was strong enough to achieve all her goals by herself. Shortly after, Vanity and all her sisters needed to gather energy to undertake a journey to very faraway lands. So all of them made their wings strong by sucking the nectar of maple flowers and the fresh dew from the leaves in the prairies. They would travel thousands of kilometers to the south and would face countless dangers. Not everyone would survive to tell their stories. Mother Nature, who was the creator of all creatures on earth, had been very patient with Vanity because of her constant pride. She was waiting for Vanity to realize how wrong her attitude was. Maybe she would finally be conscious about how she looked down on others. But the days went by and Vanity did not change. Then, one day, Mother Nature told her, "Vanity, I look with sadness on your pride and cruel attitude. You don't really understand the strong link you have with everyone, including me. That is why, from now on, and until your heart spills over at least one tear of compassion, you will be the mirror of everyone who looks at you." Vanity did not understand a word about what Mother Nature told her, and very soon she forgot that conversation. Finally, the day for the great trip arrived. They were all together and excited. Thousands and thousands of monarch butterflies started to leave the tree branches to fly toward the blue sky. Everyone except Vanity. She had departed some hours before. But the fragile pride of Vanity, as fragile as her lonely wings, would fade very quickly, leaving her alone at the mercy of a cruel world. Vanity had just flown few kilometers when she found a pinkish girl on her path. Yes, it was a pinkish girl in a pinkish dress with pinkish ribbons on her pinkish hair. The pinkish girl was afraid of Vanity because the black blotches on Vanity's wings looked awful to her eyes. She was so afraid that started to yell at Vanity, saying, "Why are you so ugly? You should be pink as everything in my world." And as soon as the girl said that, she jumped on Vanity with the intention of crushing her. Fortunately, Vanity flew just in time to avoid what could have been her end. In this lonely way, Vanity soon realized that many people found her ugly and insignificant. Even looked at her with disgust because people knew she had been a bug before transforming into a butterfly. Now she started to understand her mother's words. One day, before the night came, she found a peaceful place to sleep, but that moment was interrupted by something terrifying. Suddenly, she was surrounded by thousands of shadows spinning around her. Now she knew it would be her end. But what a big surprise when Vanity realized that the shadows came from the wings of her sisters. They had found her, and she was not alone anymore. She was so relieved and happy when they hugged her without reproach or judgment. Next morning, Vanity wanted to talk with her closest sisters to apologize herself for her rudeness, but she couldn't find them. They had died during the trip. Vanity was so shocked by the news that she could only close her eyes and felt the deep sadness and regret in her heart. Suddenly, a very tiny tear came out from it. After this, other tears sprouted, and from that moment, she cried millions and millions of them. However, there was no time to cry for the loss of her sisters. The monarchs must continue their trip. Then Vanity started to fly, but her pain and regret were so deep that she couldn't stop crying during her whole journey. What she never realized about was that her tears became rivers which floated everywhere, making the monarch's predators leave them flying in peace. When they arrived at their destination, Vanity healed her wings with the warmth of the sun and the nectar of the cornflowers. But the pain in her heart still remained. Then Mother Nature called her, and in a sign of humility, Vanity folded her wings. She felt herself the most insignificant of all creatures, and with tears in her eyes and pain in her heart, said, "My wise mother, I have been so proud that I had to lose my sisters to understand it. I ask you to forgive me. Take my wings, and I implore you, and make me warm again." Mother Nature, moved by her words, told her, "On the contrary, my beloved child, your wings will be from now on the symbol of humility, understanding, and union. It will be a reminder that everyone on earth is part of nature. So stop your tears and dance for me the eternal ritual of gratitude that brings the beauty of your wings." Vanity had learned the lesson, and when the monarchs painted the sky with the red of their wings, she joined them. She became a drop in the ocean of wings. She lost herself in happiness and turned so subtle that she became immortal to live in each human heart forever.
Wow. Thank you, Maria. You bring tears to our eyes. And I see that your background even has some butterflies.
Yes, they are before.
They're not monarchs, but they're butterflies. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing that lovely story.
Thank you.
And I see that we've got Judy next for the pictures. So, Kayla, you'll be after this, okay? You'll be the last. I'm sorry. There's a bit of a change there. So, Judy is next, and Judys Story comes from Hong Kong. And Judy started as a student in our program and graduated to being a volunteer, and brought along her husband as a volunteer, which was a bonus for us. And Judys Story is about how somebody doing a good deed came back years later to pay back the deed. Her story is page 32, and I forgot to tell you where Maria's story is. It's page 36, but Judy's is page 32. And after Judy, we'll do Kiba's story, which will be read by Kayla soon. Okay, go for it, Judy.
Okay, so the story is The Boy and the Sheriff. This is a very meaningful story that I heard when I was a kid. My middle school teacher told this story in class. All of the students loved this touching story of the relationship between the boy and the food store chef. We learned to always be helpful without expecting something in return. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a little boy whose mother was very sick. The boy cared for his mother, but they were very poor, and he had no money for food or medicine. The boy felt really helpless and was very anxious and worried because he had to find a way to get these things. He decided to go into the city to beg for money. After walking down a few streets, he came across a small outdoor food store where the chef was busy cooking. There in plain sight was an open cash box. When the chef wasn't looking, he quickly grabbed some money from the cash box. He grabbed the money and the cash box fell to the floor, making a loud crash, which startled the chef and got his attention. The boy got scared and started running down the street, with the chef chasing him. The boy was no match for the chef, and the chef caught him. He knelt down crying and apologized that he had no money to buy food and medicine to take care of his sick mother. He continued to say that his mother is the most important person in his life, and he didn't want to lose her. The chef felt pity for the boy. Instead of taking him to the police station, they returned to the food store. The chef gave him some food and additional money, along with a scrap piece of paper where he wrote down his name and phone number. "Come back anytime if you need more food for free," said the chef. The boy was so grateful for the chef's generosity. He thanked him as he left. Some time passed. The boy's mother recovered and started to work to support the family. They moved to the city to work and start a new life. His mother always believed that knowledge could change one's life, so she worked very hard to support her son's studies. The boy had decided to be a doctor so that he could help the sick. A few years later, the food store chef became sick and was admitted to the hospital. The doctor told him they did not currently have any method to treat this sickness. His condition worsened as time went by, and the chef's daughter was really worried about him. Later, a young doctor was assigned to attend to him. This young doctor was always searching for ways to find treatments and cure to heal his patients. Not so long after, the young doctor discovered a treatment for the sickness that could cure the chef. However, this new treatment was expensive. The young doctor prescribed the treatment for him anyway, as the chef would die without it. After a couple of months, the chef recovered and was ready to go home. The daughter thought of how they were going to be able to pay the hospital bill, knowing that this treatment must be very expensive and they did not have lots of money. Just before being discharged, his daughter was given the bill and her hands started shaking, knowing they could not pay the bill. But when she glanced at the bill, she burst out in tears, and she saw the total amount of the bill was 0. They both had no idea how this could be. The young doctor came to them and handed the chef a small greasy scrap piece of paper with the chef's own handwriting on it. He remembered that many years ago, he had given this piece of paper to the small boy who had taken pity on because he had to steal money to buy food and medicine to help his ill mother. The chef looked at the doctor's face and realized that this was the same boy that he had helped so many years ago, and this boy had saved his life. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. What a touching story, hey? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the last story is on page 32 of the book, and it is not really a fairy tale or a myth or a legend, but is something that actually is happening today in our world and is quite sad. And it was written by Hiba, and Hiba comes from Syria and was a refugee. And so she writes about two of her friends who are trying to get out of Syria. And I hope, Sue, that you can find Kayla's picture and sound, because Kayla is going to read Hiba's story, because Hiba can't do it. And Kayla worked with Hiba during the writing of the story. There she is. So there's Kayla. And I want to say Kayla also did all the screenshots of below in your book at the bottom. He managed to cut and paste and do all of those for us. So Kayla's a student at King's, and we are so thankful, Kayla, for your contributions and that at the last minute you could read Hiba's stories. That's the last story.
Thank you. So I am reading Bottleneck by Hiba Hamsho, and you'll find it on page 31. So the short story Bottleneck is based on real-life characters fleeing from Syria. The names of the characters have been changed to protect their identities. Once upon a time, not that long ago, there were two young men in their early 20s named Adam and Ali. Adam and Ali lived in Idlib, Syria, and both were top students in their civil engineering classes. Due to the war in Syria, the young men were to be drafted into the army and would not be able to complete their studies. Adam and Ali were frightened of the dangers of war. They were also concerned about how long they would be drafted, as they'd heard stories of others who enlisted and had to continue serving year after year. So Adam and Ali decided to flee to Turkey. With the help of some smugglers, they began their difficult, long, and very dangerous trip into Turkey. The trip was very dangerous, as Idlib is located between the opposition army and the Syrian regime army. After several days and a perilous journey, they arrived illegally on Turkish land. Now, they had to begin their journey searching for a smuggler who could help them reach the borders of Greece. The journey across the water on rubber boats is very unsafe. Thousands of migrants lose their lives from drowning, military attacks, and lack of resources trying to get across the Mediterranean Sea. Although the trip is very dangerous, it is the only solution for those who want to escape the conditions of war and start a new life. After paying the smugglers a great deal of money and deciding with the smugglers where to board the boat, they set out across the water where they eventually reached the coast of Greece. The boat ride took many hours, and they were very cold and very hungry when they arrived on a remote island in Greece. The smuggler told them they couldn't bring any extra clothes or food with them, as space on the boat was limited. He promised to provide them with resources when they arrived in Greece. Adam and Ali would soon learn that they had been lied to, as they were left stranded, wandering in the cold forest for a week, without food, water, or any warm clothes. They had no way to escape other than to surrender themselves to the Greek government, who were devoid of mercy. The police beat them and took their mobile phones and returned them to the Turkish authorities. To this day, Adam and Ali have tried 10 times unsuccessfully to flee to safety. Each attempt is costly and very dangerous, but they continue to try in the hopes that they will have a better and safer future. They desire to get out of the bottleneck and dream of living the normal and safe life that any young man in his 20s would desire. Adam and Ali work tirelessly in the hopes that one day they will have their happily ever after.
Thank you so much, Kayla. And Heba, when you hear this, we thank you so much for sharing this very, very sad story, but we hope that there is hope for your friends and we will keep them in our thoughts. And thank you, Kayla, again. Tracy, you get to say the final word here.
Wow. Well, these stories have been amazing. And I want you to know that we're all so very proud of you. This is the third book that you've written that we've been able to be a part of at Amity House. And I don't know if you know, when these books come to us, we share them. We take them with us to different resource fairs, to different places that we go. And people look at them and people read them. And I will tell you that everyone who has read your stories has been very touched and very awestruck at what you've shared. Mayor Sohi has a copy of this latest book. He came to Amity House during the campaign, and while he was here, we presented him with your book. And so know that your stories, your latest book, is in the hands of Edmonton's new mayor. And I'm sure that he, like us, is loving your stories. I have been so proud to watch you and to see mostly the relationships that you've built. The community and relationships you've built. It's not easy to do. It has taken a lot for all of you to do that, and your commitment to each other and helping each other makes me feel really, really, really good that we've been part of this program. Amity House will continue to support you. If you need help connecting to a class, if you want to continue meeting your friends over Zoom, if there's anything else that we can help you with, please know that you can reach out to us. We also, of course, would like to recognize your teachers, Louisa and Frida, who've done an amazing job in these classes, and all of the volunteers without whom this couldn't have been possible. Again, thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your stories with all of us.
Thank you, Tracy.